I'd just like to say hello and welcome to our weekly conversation about the 10100 cooperative idea that we're trying to get started here in the budding metropolis of Owen Sound. Yeah. Hey, Sarah, nice to see you.
Hello, hello.
I'll take a moment to briefly introduce myself, and maybe we can all do the same. But we have with us today a guest, a fellow by the name of Peter, who hopefully will have a bit of information about cooperatives that can help illuminate our conversation a little bit more. So I'm looking forward to this. But again, my name is James Harris, and I live in Owen Sound, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Absolutely. I don't know.
Do you know Barry Randall by any chance?
I do not. Is he a known soundite?
Yes, he is, and the Glassworks project.
Okay.
Are you familiar with them?
This sounds familiar. They're
people working on a development project. I guess it was a formal industrial site called the Glassworks.
Mm-hmm.
And they have incorporated as a co-op. They're looking at housing, they're looking at food, they're looking at several items in Owen Sound.
And the guy's name is Brian.
Well, the one gentleman, his name is Barry Randall.
Oh, Barry, sorry.
The other person, I believe, and I'm not at the office, so I don't have everything right handy, is Zoe. Zoe, I'll have to see if I have it on my phone, who started the Glassworks. And they've been at it for a little while. It's Zoe Thurling, Thurling. And it's the Owen Sound Glassworks Development Corporation. And the co-op is called the Glassworks.coop.
Glassworks.coop.
Yeah, we have an upper level domain just for co-ops.
I was going to say, we found out about that 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. We were talking about this with Gavin, and that was who's somebody who probably isn't going to be joining us today, but we talked about getting something like the 10100.coop as our handle to get going.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I'll give you Zoe's phone number.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit then, what are your projects, Laura, Sarah, James? What I read over the overview of the 10100. What are the other projects?
So within the 10100?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, at this point, we're still working on the framework for how we're going to be, what we're going to be putting in there as the businesses themselves. This initially came about as I was trying to figure out how I was going to start up my dream business. Of course, I don't have any, rich relatives who have willed me a fortune that I could go and, start something. And sorry, am I frozen, Laura? Or
you were briefly there, but you came back.
Good to know. Yeah. So, at any rate, so there's at least one, shall we say, sports bar for geeks on the list of the 10 businesses that I would like to see as one of the 10 that we do. But within the structure, what we're really looking for are just 10 money-making businesses that would take approximately 100 of us to pull it together in order to operate. As far as the specifics for the businesses, we're still working on creating a framework with which to attract the people to get those businesses started. So we got at least one. Within that, we also have one of the ideas, I mentioned benefit businesses, I believe, in the little rundown that I sent you.
Hmm.
So one of the things that we would be doing would be, as we're growing the 10 core businesses, we would also have something like childcare that would be growing alongside of that. That will probably be one of the first things we would do alongside of the first businesses. Um, because as far as I can tell, all of us are at that age where, if we're going to be working, we're going to need someone to look after our kids while we're doing it. So it just is a no-brainer to have something like that starting at the very beginning. And then as the larger we grow, that will just naturally evolve and grow as well. We can open it up to the community, and that's the sort of idea.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the artists, the Owen Sound Artists Co-op?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's another one that's there along with the Glassworks. All right. So what else? Tell me more about the ideas that you have.
Well, the idea. Sorry, what just? Oh,
Getting my list. I took
oh
notes.
yeah. Thank you, Laura. But in brief, the idea sort of came from hanging out with entrepreneurially minded friends of mine who tend to go through businesses like entrepreneurial minded people do. And one of the things I learned from hanging out with them was that there's value in having diversity in your sources of income. So when they would have a slow period in one aspect of their business, they would often have something else. They would create a side business that would keep them afloat during the period of time while they were waiting for their main business to pick back up. That sort of idea. So sticking with the idea of creating as a diverse network of small to medium-sized businesses as possible that would share what all businesses need in terms of accounting, um, payroll, and other things that could be centralized. Some things like a marketing department that would handle advertising and marketing for all the different businesses. Those businesses would not have to hire outside or have somebody, within the business that took care of advertising or something. They would just need to be connected with the person who's really good at it, and yeah. We would have that a network or a core group of people that would be administrative sort of thing.
Mhm.
That's the basic idea.
Right. And totally necessary. And the idea of having a collection of those businesses, like, I guess the catch for me is you want to create that infrastructure, but it's obviously those core businesses that need to be the foundation of it. And I'm not hearing
what those are.
What those are.
Okay, Laura, what were some of the ideas that we had put up on that thing there?
I was waiting for that. Okay, so we have, let's see, the core ones. We were thinking department store is important for not only as a business, but also as a supply for others. We were thinking, what's one of the other, the childcare, of course, was mentioned. Contractors, mechanic, used car lot, detailing, and then like a conversion from oil to electric cars. Charging stations, zip car kind of thing. We were thinking having like a taxi service and courier and have like all of that under one roof, just kind of like car mechanics, a series of cars kind of thing, and then have it, and then that way it can service not just the community, of course, and that's how it generates money, but we can also use the co-op to also, fix up and like take stuff around ourselves. So if we need to move something, we can just toss it into the trunk with something somebody else has ordered and send it off. So that can also be part of the department store thing where we can take something we've ordered from the department store, and then somebody says, oh, I need it delivered to my house or something, then boom, we have the business set up to already do that. We have the bar was mentioned. James was mentioning he knows somebody who wants to open her own tattoo parlor. Yeah, the tattoo parlor, because apparently it's a very low starting cost, so it can be one of the ones that starts first, because it's more likely to generate money, and then we can use that to fund other businesses. Oh
Yeah,
gosh,
the profit margin on tattoos is particularly exciting.
yeah.
Surplus, yeah.
Where I come in is I've got music background, so I've got like publishing and like I was thinking like a record company kind of thing for independent artists in the area, to help them get albums up and made and things like that if they don't know how to do it, kind of thing. But also it would be, because it's done through a co-op and not through the traditional thing, it can be more affordable for them and more profitable for them, as opposed to record companies as they stand that kind of just leech off the artists. Financial management, and that can also work in with what we're doing, kind of thing. So we've got our financial planners that work with us and are on the board. But we can also hire them out if somebody needs, and have a business set up for that. And that's very low startup costy.
So just to clarify then, Laura, you have the services you want to provide, the accounting, marketing, financial management, taxes. So those people are already part of your grouping?
James knows everybody who's involved.
Uh-huh.
I sort of I'm the note taker.
It's one of those things where, starting with the question of, okay, so who do we know that can do stuff? So there are people that I am familiar with who I've talked to about these ideas that have like either an accounting background, not that they're committed to being a part of the cooperative.
Right.
Like I said, we're kind of at that stage where I've tried to go through the Ontario Co-oprative Act to figure out how much of this idea for the structure I've got it will fit within what is legally permissible, and yeah, and that's kind of where I'm trying to get through the gobbledygook of the law to figure out what can we do, what can't we do, what are the things that I'm using made up language for, wherein language for it already exists. Like how much of the wheel am I reinventing? Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, the whole co-op, you've done some of the background reading on co-ops, and everything's based on a need. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, he's good. And I don't know if you had a chance to go to CanadianWorker.coop, and it's a need or a service. So you want to provide that service. It's not clear, though. Like you said, sort of, you're almost in the middle. You're not a group that is wanting to provide it or have it to provide to other people. You're conceptualizing it sort of at the top end and at the bottom end. What about? I haven't heard from Sarah. What service do you provide, or how do you see yourself fitting in?
At this point, I've more just been the moral support. I don't know if I would fit in or how. I don't have a business background or any ideas for that. James has picked my brain a bit just about the logistics of setting up a co-op run childcare. My background is in ECE, so I'm familiar with the ratios and so on, but again, the administrative side is not my forte. I'm in the child development side of things, which is very, very different.
So you do the child care workers once it got going, kind of thing?
No. Oh gosh, no.
Oh.
No. Nope.
Are there,
my background is in ECE, but I teach child development, so I'm not looking at being a frontline worker in that capacity. And yeah, I've been open with James about that as well.
Yep.
How many are there? Do you know then? I imagine you do know the co-ops or childcare providers in Owen Sound and area.
We have quite a few. Childcare is not a profitable business
Right.
at all.
Right.
And yeah, it is quite a long process. Like, you would need to source somebody who is capable of acting as a supervisor and who has several years experience already with running a child care center in order to be that startup person and the liaison between the Ministry of Education and the county and so on, in order to get it up and running. So yeah, that and I wouldn't be a good person for that role just because I don't have supervisory
No, I wasn't
Mhm.
thinking of that. I was thinking that
Yeah.
your concept of providing the sort of administrative backbone, a lot of childcare co-ops in particular, from my experience, they do lack that you know, they want to run and can do the actual childcare, but the bookkeeping and some of the other administrative stuff is a pain always. There is something called, there were several childcare associations, but over the years they have sort of fallen down because of early childhood education. That has sort of undermined the business model. But there is something called PCPC, which is a group based in Toronto that sort of represents all the different childcare co-ops that do remain. They'd be a good contact to identify who is in the Owen Sound area, and maybe
we only have one child care center that does run with the cooperative model. So, but again, they're still regulated through the Ministry of Education. They're still licensed through the Ministry of Education. And the cooperative model is that it falls on the parents. The way that co-ops work with childcare when they're licensed centers is that the parents then are expected to provide a certain number of hours within the program, doing either, you know, the cleaning, helping with cooking, paperwork, whatever capacity they're able to volunteer their time for. That's the way that the one cooperative daycare or childcare center in this area runs. It's not in Owen Sound. I'm trying to remember if it is Markdale. I'll have to reach out to one of my students. Yeah.
Right. You could provide for that co-op, you could provide the service because, you know, maybe because there's variations on the model where some do have more of a volunteer component, but others who operate on a, you know, they hire staff or hire a contract service, which could be your co-op as the contracting service, is what I'm saying. And it wouldn't just have to be co-op that you'd supply the service to. It could be any of the others too.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just another option to provide business for the co-op.
What was the name of that Toronto group again? The
PCPC, which stands for Parent Child. I think it's just pcpc.org.
Are they down at Ossington and Bloor?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not in the office. So the other group I was going to mention, are you familiar with Grassroots Solar and LED?
Yeah.
Carl Bell?
I believe it's Grassroots was mentioned to me. I had a conversation with Tom Webb a couple of weeks ago after I read that he was a cooperative expert on the CBC. So I just tracked him down online and said, "Hey, I'm interested in co-ops. You want to have a talk?" And he
Excellent.
did. It was great.
He's a wonderful man. Yeah.
I thought so.
Carl Bell would definitely be, worth chatting with, because he was actually looking to potentially transform or transition his business to a worker co-op to be owned by his employees or other outside people. He's looking for an exit strategy, retiring. And he's also part of the Glassworks and Zoe Thurling.
This Carl Bell, I think I might know this guy through proxy. Do they do like woodworking stuff, like high-end sort of fancy cuttings and stuff?
I'm not sure. He might also own a building where other artists are. Like, it's not a co-op, but it's a building in which he rents out to high-end artists. Yes, and he knows the artist co-op. Yeah.
Where is the Glassworks building?
They don't have a location at this point. They've put in bids on a couple of potential sites, but they were not successful. They got outbidded by a developer, but they're still looking to find a site to create, as I said, sort of an integrated housing, food, community type center. I think obviously
we're all about that.
Yeah, no, I hear a lot of stuff from Owen Sound as a sort of a community that is looking to develop those type of local, sustainable type services, and that's my friend Barry Randall is involved with sustainability up there too, and I'm going to give you his number. Yeah, no, it'd be interesting to sort of integrate all the various co-op thinking types like yourself to ascertain, to unite forces, but also ascertain what services are in need, and also what potential business, because after coming out of the COVID crisis, unfortunately there are going to be businesses that are going to go down. And one of the ways to, especially ones that are the community decides are essential, is to set them up as either community owned co-ops or worker co-ops. And again, dare I say, they might also, the price point might be available, and being fair, but also preserving that vital service or product, be good for the community.
So what did you think about the idea of using our like a monthly membership fee to create the initial pool of capital from which we would start these businesses from, or buy up the equipment, or even purchase existing turnkey businesses in the area that are up for sale, and turn them into worker-owned cooperatives. The idea being that, of course, once a month, our 100 would gather. Maybe not all as a corporate meeting every single month, but at least once a quarter we would have a corporate gathering. But we would then bring $100, which of course, 100 times 100, you got 10,000, and you do that a couple of times a year, you got 120,000 a year. You can start a couple of small to medium-sized businesses with that, and that's the just basic thinking behind this scheme.
My first reaction is that, again, you're starting at this level as opposed to this level, which is co-ops start out of
from
a
the bottom
basic
up
need, or employment if you're creating a worker co-op, or it's farmers who created Gay-Lee, or Mountain Equipment Co-op, people who wanted good product for outdoor sports and events. So I find that what you're if you're talking about an investment co-op, then there actually is an interesting group that's already done something like that you could learn from in Waterloo. It's called Union Sustainable Development Cooperative, and their website is unionsd.coop. Union, UNIONSD, Sustainable Development stands for, .coop, because they have got together and they realize the same thing. They're in Kitchener, that how do we create a pool of capital to invest in good businesses, and or support, buy up, say workspaces that then they could house artists or house other services, other entrepreneurs. And they've so don't reinvent the wheel. Talk to them, because they've already developed
something.
The basics.
All right, so I've got that written down. I know what I'm doing this evening.
I think there's a lot of sort of untapped potential, by the sounds of it, in the community. Have you also been in touch with the, I know it's a little difficult now, but the community future development corporations, or the community foundation, or the small business enterprise centers? Have you been in touch with them?
Not yet. We were hoping. I've been tossing around this idea. Probably, like, I was introduced to the works of Richard Wolff about a little less than a year ago. So up until that point, I was sort of like wandering around, wondering how on earth I was ever going to pull together my dream business without any capital. And
what is your dream business?
Oh, it's the sports bar for geeks, Flagons and Dragons. So it's kind of like a restaurant, family-friendly environment, but it's taken a little bit of the snakes and lattes model, a little bit of something that would work, I think, a little bit better here in the tourist area of Owen Sound, and
there was it was called the Boardroom, was a worker co-op that was developed here in Guelph. And it now, again, just before COVID, but it was bought out by Snakes and Lattes.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was called, I think, just the Boardroom, and a co-op, worker co-op, but it's shut down because of but it was also transforming.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, I think the Boardroom. Yeah. I don't know if their website's still up.
The sort of aesthetics I was going for was something like Seascape Toronto, where they were doing something that was pretty much right along the lines of what I wanted to do. So, and the way of getting to that, of course, is I think I came up with the idea where I was like, if there would be 10 of us that would be required to basically run the place, and if we could all bring like $1,000 a month, then we could come up with, in a year, we could come up with the initial pool of capital to be able to at least go out and get a larger loan to be able to finance the whole thing. And then I got to thinking, well, none of us have $1,000 a month to set aside for something like this. But I bet you if we had, and then I just did the math from there, 100 people, which is manageable. In a previous life, I used to.
Is it manageable? Is it manageable? Do you have 100
so.
friends who would kick in $100 a month?
I used to do like my formal training in a past life, used to be as a church planter and organizer, which typically is designed to build up groups of networks of about 100 people or so. Anywhere between 100 and to 200 people is generally seen as the ideal size for any particular church community. Once you get larger than that, dynamics change and you can't have whatever. But the point of the matter is, once you got 100 people built around a single idea or a set of common values and goals, it's I think 100 people is definitely within that manageable area. You just got to have your clearly defined boundaries and make sure everybody knows what the rules are, essentially, and make sure we're all on the same page.
There are I think there are a couple of groups, the 100 Good Men here in town and 100 Good Women, that they pitch together, and every quarter they invest in some charity or something. Yeah. Okay. Again, I guess I unfortunately have to go in a couple minutes, but I was going to say, you've got. I think, well, Owen Sound has a lot of potential. There already are some people that you could connect with. I would definitely check with Union because from the finance point of view, that's what you're, I think, interested in.
The finance is like a stepping stone. It's the way that we would be able to start creating an initial pool of capital from which we would then start, either Flagons and Dragons and or insert one of the other 9-10 core businesses.
Do you have connections with the credit union?
No, I don't. I wish I did. Probably should.
Again, why you don't want to move any farther
until we get
until you have a connection with the credit union, because putting your money in the bank is just a problem.
And
no,
we're not at a point where we're collecting money yet. We're still at the point where we want to make sure that we have something sound that we can attract people to, so we can bring 100 people towards it and say, this is the idea, this is how it's going to run. We need workers, we need people with ideas, we need people with dreams, and this is how we're going to do it. Yeah.
Okay. And the other I would suggest is the cooperator's insurance, because you definitely want to cover your ass with any liability issues. So I would connect with your local cooperators because they actually have a specific program called Co-op Guard that is made for co-ops. Yeah. And it can be tailored for any particular co-op. I think keep reaching out, and we can answer any questions that you have as follow-up. I think also there's other co-ops in the area that I think there's some agricultural co-ops in your area. I know there's the
Gailey operates in the area, I'm pretty sure.
Gailey, and so again, there'd be good potential members.
There's a brand new one that's currently in the process of, or was in the process of getting started up on the peninsula, where they were doing like Sarah, you might remember their name. It's shoot, I can see them. Name starts with a C. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Or with a K.
Peninsula?
Yeah, they were outbound, sort of outdoorsy type stuff.
Carlin. Yeah,
there's
Devin
the
Carlin.
one. There's them.
The Vals.
Yes, they're great people. But they were starting to do a cooperative thing up there as well. So it's an idea that I think it's time. It's definitely come. And right. Totally right.
Oh yeah. No, we're getting calls like crazy, and I think you're right that especially now that the pandemic has exposed so many problems in the economic system, and capitalism is being forced to evolve and or fade, and new developments are coming up with younger people who want to see something more triple bottom line. So if you can unite the various progressive forces in Owen Sound, I think you could marshal a lot of energy.
Yeah, and it's amazing what pooled resources can do. I mean, that's the whole principle behind it, right? When we all do well, we all do well.
I think you'll find the Glassworks, I think they had connections to a fair bit of capital. They just haven't found the right spot yet. So I definitely want to talk to Zoe. Yeah.
Okay. And I also had Carl Bell. There it is.
I'd go to Zoe first because she's part of the co-op. Carl was
he had a member business, of theirs. A business that
solar.
He was wanting to.
Yeah, solar business. Yeah, and then the artist co-op too. You said you knew some people in the artist co-op, did you, or any of you?
I know the person who used to run it, the person who ran it. I don't know if she still does, but she just opened an art thing next door, like a training center. So I don't know if she's still running it, but she was 6 months ago.
Okay. This is Morag?
Yeah, that's Morag.
Yeah, I'm sure
Oh,
she'd be
right.
willing to talk. And I know a couple of the artists who are part
Oh
of
yeah,
it,
the
like Kate
Anna.
Siviero and so on.
Mhm.
Um,
Was very good.
but yeah, I know a bunch of people in the Artists Co-op.
Good.
I love it here. I'd move in. I'd just live in the back if they'd let me.
Too true. Well, Peter, I just wanted to say thank you very much for coming to join our conversation today.
No,
Um, uh,
pleasure.
Anytime that you're willing to drop in, I'm trying to, do a regular thing here because I think that's important to starting something. So I
Mhm.
still have many questions about dividend shares and how that all works because there's something about patronage shares that I'm not too sure how that all works and functions that I'm sure you probably have an understanding for.
Patronage, it's very easy. Patronage
Yeah.
is based on the amount you purchase. So Mountain Equipment
Plus,
Co-op, a couple of years ago, I went and bought a whole mess of tents and sleeping bags, and at the end of the year, when they
okay.
decide, what profits are available, they divide it up based on the amount of what people purchase. So if you purchased a can of dog food, you'd get nothing. If you
Yeah.
purchased several $1,000s worth of whatever, you
Yeah.
might get, I don't know,
Okay.
whatever the percentage is. Yeah, it's
Okay.
based on how you patronize the co-op. The
Okay.
dividends are issued on the shares that are
Yeah.
issued by the co-op, and those usually are fixed at usually a low, prime +1 or prime +2%. And but I would focus more on the business and the
Yeah.
the associations.
I'm going to start this up again. Yeah, that was a great conversation.
Oh,
And really good right at the last end where I'm like, oh, patronage. Oh yeah, so patronage wouldn't even apply necessarily in the 10100, so that's okay. Um,
but it's worth learning just in case you ever decide to tweak it.
mhm, mhm.
Um,
It could
you can.
apply. Like we could turn our department store into a bit of like a mountain co-op cooperative thing where we can open it up to the community where for like a membership fee, which wouldn't be the same as the worker membership fee, but kind of like a Sam's Club or what's the other one? The one I hate.
Club Z.
I don't hate them. They don't exist anymore.
That's literally the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, no, it's the one
Amazon Prime.
no, no, it's the one it's like Sam's Club. It's you have to pay money to be a part of it,
No.
and they're really big down in Toronto. Everybody has like memberships in order to go in. If you don't have a membership, you can't go in. That sort of thing.
Oh, Costco?
That's the one. I hate
Okay.
Costco.
I've been into a Costco once because a friend of mine, like, they have a drywalling business.
Oh yes.
So they needed lots of drywall, so they got a Costco membership, and we went in there one time, and it was just, oh my god, I was laughing the entire time at the absurdity of it all because I'm standing there and literally to my right is like oysters in a big freezer, and immediately to my left on the other side, like not even like a meter apart, men's suits.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then
Right.
like right ahead of me is like the housing section. I'm just like, this is absurd.
Yeah, and
Hilarious.
it attracts the kind of people that just sort of that cause me to lose faith in the goodness of humanity, um, especially in the parking lots. Oy vey, oy. But
I
yeah,
never noticed that. I just noticed how absurd the just, yeah, it's like Sam the Record Man, except less. Actually, it was like Sam the Record Man had compartmentalized rooms
mhm.
with various stuff that all like went together, whereas Costco not so much. Like it did do a little bit, but then literally steps away, you'd be like, and now we're in clothing.
Yeah, right.
Do we want the froze like the fish that close to the clothing section? Because wouldn't the clothing come out smelling like fish? Is that just me with that concern?
So Sarah, when we get our dealio going and we have to set up a
I'm
what do
not
you call it?
Sarah. Sarah's not here. Is she coming back?
Oh, did I say Sarah? Sorry, I meant Laura.
It threw me. I thought she was somehow here, and I couldn't see her, and I was like, "Oh no!" Never mind.
No. My brain
on.
and names regularly get mixed up.
Okay. No, I just thought she was somehow here, and I was having a computer glitch, and she wasn't. I was like, whatever, never mind. Go on. I will be
Here,
Sarah if I need to be.
No. Here in spirit. I mean, isn't that awesome? Is that?
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Like a cat in a sunbeam. So am I a little bit.
Yeah, you're looking pretty awesome too. What was I talking about? Something about the TIM 100.
Yeah. Sorry, I threw you off.
Oh, that's quite all right.
We were talking about Costco and clothing smelling like fish.
No, you were talking about. I think you were talking about clothing smelling like fish. The only thing I was trying to talk about. What was I trying to talk about? The idea of patronage shares and opening up to the community. So it would be really interesting if we started running like some kind of a department store that offered up, like the Mountain Equipment Co-op. We could open up to include people in the community to pay like a monthly membership fee. And then that would go towards the purchasing of, whatever it is that we're getting. And then we just come in and
do that with the taxi service and the mechanics too.
It would be very interesting, yeah.
Because if you have a car or something and you don't necessarily, like the deal, and you own the car and you don't necessarily want, like, especially if you want to convert it to like electric, suddenly, if you bought it from, from the retailer or something, they're not going to want to fix it anymore. So if you had a membership at the mechanics and whatnot, then any maintenance on that or anything else in your car would then be part of your.
We could, in theory, put like a parking lot with like a dozen or so cars at any given time down at like the 28th Street apartments.
Yeah.
Or someplace else, have a what would be really interesting would be reaching out to people in the suburbs and stuff, people who normally expect and anticipate would have cars. Well, you know what? Not necessarily. Well, why don't we just offer them like a service, like where you can, instead of paying, $500, $600 a month, for the privilege of having a car, you pay $100 a month, and you get X amount of hours a week, and you just schedule it up when you want the car. I mean, how often does your car just sit in the driveway doing nothing?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's an idea, it's possible that it's an idea that it's time to come.
Again, he's absolutely right about like we're working at this level, but we're conceptualizing at this level.
Yeah.
Now, granted, having a fuller picture is good, but as far as that goes, for membership things, then that's definitely something to consider down the road once we get that far. Is do we want to incorporate this? Because that's definitely something that could be beneficial. So I think the number one thing from this point on is to contact the people that already have co-ops and then compare notes, and decide, we don't have a date when all of this is ending, so we're kind of, we can conceptualize until the lockdown is over. But once the lockdown is over, have the people who are ready to sign on all of their names signed and membered, and we're ready to go. The minute lockdown is done, we're going out and starting a business.
and we're going out and we're attracting people so that we can, like, for me, and yeah, tell me if I'm wrong in this, or if I need to rethink this, it might be a better way of phrasing it. Because one of the things Curtis and I were chatting about is that I have a tendency to, when I have an idea or I have a thought or a feeling, it needs to be a certain way, and anything outside of that I tend to be a little bit more rigid on. So I don't want to fall into that trap. So I
I
want
think that's why
to,
it's so important to talk to the other co-op people that already have a successful model and compare yours to theirs.
yeah.
And if there's anything that your model, is your model works, on a certain level kind of thing, definitely in concept, but run it past them. They're the experts. And if they say that's not going to work because of this or this or this,
Mm-hmm.
consider it, take it in, and yeah,
Reevaluate, recompile.
reevaluate. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, and I get it. You like, I'm the same way. Like you have an idea in your head and you get really attached to it.
But I mean, by its very nature, I'm inviting 100 other people to be a part of this. It's not going to look like what I think it's going to look like by the time this all gets up and running.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
especially when people get in. But I think by the our goal, I think, is by the time the lockdown is done, have our model solidified, have the people, their names, their signatures, their
hmm
commitment signed off on. As many of the 100 as we can. Certainly enough to start the new business.
yeah.
And then the first one or two businesses ready to the people saying, okay, I've got this, I've got my plan for this business and I'm ready to go. I can do it out of my garage or out of my house, especially like the tattoo business.
Yeah.
Somebody can convert a room in their house into a tattoo parlor, get it licensed, get it set up, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
We've got the tattoo parlor beginnings, and then as things, they find a place to move to, they immediately move there, they get their office back or whatever. Boom, we've got that business, but at least have it so that it's set up that as soon as the lockdown is done, we have it. Because I think we can conceptualize this until like, this is something I do, is I conceptualize and then nothing happens.
Yeah. And this is one of those things where I'm really not satisfied with conceptualizing and nothing happening in this one, because this is our way out.
So definitely make a goal of the first couple businesses. Like, talk to your friend who wants to start the tattoo parlor. Anybody that hasn't, talk to the people doing this, the other local things, if they want to sign on or join stuff, or mesh forces or whatever. Have the first business, maybe one or two, maybe three businesses ready to jump out of the gate the minute the lockdown is over and the gate is open.
So my initial thought was, as we had the 100 people come in and as we had the 10 businesses be established, the first businesses would be democratically chosen by the majority, and also that the first businesses would become obvious, as to, like, it's going to be like one of the first three, because at the beginning we're going to have
that'll work
so much
when
money,
you have
right?
the names, because that's just it. You get the names first, and then you put up the business ideas. The people who are members that are closest to or whatever, because that's the other thing, is there might be a vote. But if one person has a model that can start tomorrow and another person has one that'll take months to build, and everybody votes on the one that takes months to build, they're going to lose the money.
Well, and that's where the politics comes in, because
vote on whichever ones are ready to go now.
Yes.
Just like, these are the ones you're voting on. These ones we'll vote on later.
Like,
because
so
they're not ready to go yet. We need something. Otherwise, the money, we're just going to lose all. We could potentially lose all that money.
Yeah, we just make
and not make any of it back, and that's like bad for everybody. So
we just make it a criteria that any business that is no business can be considered for voting unless there is enough money in the capital pool in order to cover its initial startup
not just
costs.
The money, but also the planning on the business, on the part of the business itself. Like, if somebody comes in,
every
like,
business will be planned.
I've got the money to open a whatever business, I don't know, an eyebrow plucking business, and I've got all the money and all the capital. Ooh, yay! And everybody's like, yeah. And I was like, yes, I want to start this business, whatever. And then you just turn to them and you're like, okay, you got the votes, you got the money, go do it. And they're just like, I don't know how.
Right. So yeah, no, that's fair. No, but each business, as a qualification of being on the business thing, will have a business plan laid out, right?
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
And each
definitely also the
business,
ones that take, at least to start off with, the ones that take the least amount of time to start, because we want to start making that money back as soon as possible.
well, this is one of the things that we need to sit down and figure out what the format of our businesses is going to be, because every business has more or less the same sort of categories, and these are accounting categories. So my friend Lorianne, I really want to get her in here because she has experience in setting up books for businesses. So she knows what the categories are, what the different, what all
So
those things are.
definitely bring her in, make sure that she has a look over everything. Just make sure that like I would say the goal is first start recruiting people.
Yep.
Do the get people, because you know way more people that are interested in everything. You're the brainchild of that one. So I would definitely start saying, hey, are you in? I need a definite yes or no. Are you in? This gets going. I call you for the $100. You show up at the door with the $100 and you're ready to go.
Because you're going to be, we need somebody in the 10-100 that can do accounting, and this is your opportunity. You know, you
And
get
that
paid.
goes for everybody. Like,
Yep.
I can put in $100, mainly because, well, I've got some savings and things like that, but like $100, yeah, I can do that. So you've got me. I will put my name down on a piece of paper. I will add it to the website. I will whatever.
Yeah.
Gavin is probably also another person, but anybody else you've been talking to,
We need to start making that list. Yeah.
you need to make that list. That list, I think, is critical because especially with your business model, you need to make sure that those people are committed and that they're not just like, oh yeah, that sounds like fun. And then poof.
Yeah.
Not
Where's
there
the
when you
commitment?
actually get things going. I've had that happen. I don't know how many times.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Sorry.
You know, the band, for example. I'm glad I found you a drummer, because trying to find a drummer that was like, oh yeah, I'm totally in, and then they never show up for practice. So you need to make sure you find people that are committed.
Yeah, I just need to practice to show up to.
And actually willing to show up, because there's a difference between somebody being like, yeah, I'm in, and somebody who actually knocks on your door and is like, hey, viva la resistance, well, you know, where's my shovel, where's my garbage bag, where's whatever, let's get this show on the road, you know. So make sure the people like sign their names, like put their names down and say, look, if you're signing this, like, you have my name, that means that when I call you, you show up.
Yeah.
And I guarantee, like, find maybe a little more than 100 people, because
oh yeah,
maybe it's my my trust issues, but I find people to be disappointing a lot of the time.
Yes.
So definitely like a little more than 100, so that the few people that are just like flaky,
yep.
we can afford to lose and just be like, bye.
So
good thing we have a backup.
Yeah. I'm expecting that in order for us to get the right residents of 10-100, we're probably going to have to reach out to about 500 people.
Yeah.
And have about anywhere between 15 to 20 or even more different business proposals. Don't want to have too many, so we need to have some sort of like criteria of like what a minimum threshold in terms of earnings would be expected, that sort of thing, and encourage businesses. So like the tattoo parlor realistically only needs 4 people to run.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
So we team up the tattoo parlor with a couple of hairdressers and Mel, who can do henna tattoos, right? So
yeah. So you need those people.
Yeah, so you
You
just
need those
pair them
people,
up.
and you need their names. So I would reach out to the, because if you're reaching out to people, they're going to need the information. So we need to make sure all the information is down in a coherent package that we can present to people.
10100 co-ops. So we need to incorporate Gavin and start eking out
At
what
least
it
put
looks like.
a clear sort of description on the Facebook page as much as possible, so that you can send it to them, because even if we don't have the website up and running yet, we still want to be recruiting people, because Gavin's not doing this for money, and he's got money to make so far.
Yeah, true,
You know,
true.
we're sort of back paying him, so we can't really afford to like whereas, you know, we've got time. So definitely, yeah, do whatever you can to make that as coherent as possible and make it presentable, so that it's, you know, just like, hey, are you interested in this? Here's the breakdown of it. I'm looking for definite signatures, but definitely like have a look at it if you want to work and stuff and actually get paid a living wage, etc. Or if you want to start your own business, or you just want to work for a business.
And then we start our covert sort of campaign where, you know, we go get a whole bunch of part-time jobs at chip places, and we just figure out who the best people at those places are, and just say, hey, have you considered?
Yeah, whatever works, you know. Yeah, talk to people, get their names, have the information ready to hand to them, because they're going to be like, what is this and how does it work? And definitely, you know, present it to them, and when, if they say, yeah, I'm in, just be like, good, can I write your name down on a piece of paper so I can call you back later and say, hey, I need $100 and can you show up to the next meeting? And then actually have them show up. And they're like, yeah, and cool, perfect. Here's your name, it's on the list. And then boom, we've got a name.
Yeah, great. So for my money, quite literally for my money, the way I've been conceiving of this is no money gets transferred until we get 100 people with the 10 businesses, right?
Yes.
Up until then, it's all just like, this is just an idea.
But you still
Can I
need
get your
them to be
commitment?
like, when we need the money,
Gotcha.
when we ask for it, your name is on a piece of paper. We give you that phone call and we say, hey, we've got the 10 businesses, we've got 100 people, we now need $100 so we can get that first, you know, those first businesses up and going, that they're not just gonna be like, well, I don't remember having that conversation. Did I agree to that?
Right.
And they're like, I have your name on a piece of paper. I have your signature on a piece of paper saying that you were in and interested, and we're counting on you to have the... I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you tell I'm frustrated with that kind of person?
Just a bit. And I think that's quite okay. You know,
like, if you're not sure in the beginning, then that's fine. But if you sign on to something, unless you find out there's an element of it that you didn't want, but then tell that person immediately. I mean, I've been signed up to do a thing, and then I found out that I wasn't going to be paid till after the fact, and I didn't have enough money to pay for my own way to do things and have enough money for food. And I'm like, I will probably die of starvation before the job is done. So paying me after the fact isn't going to work. They wouldn't negotiate. I left. But if we had this, that shouldn't be a problem for this.
No, because the whole point of it is
either have their lives, or they have whatever incentive pay, whatever, like from government emergency pay or whatever, until they get jobs going and running, and, you know, maybe guaranteed annual income. Who knows what's going on? But people, they've got their own lives, and then suddenly, okay, quit your job, come here, we've got a better idea for you. Better pay, totally. Better whatever. Come work for us. We've given you the phone call. Your name is on the list.
Yeah, bring your $100. You know, because when you bring your $100, we have a party. Like, that's the whole point. You know.
Oh yeah.
We get together in our groups of businesses, right? That's how it's designed. And so the idea being that the once a month gathering where you bring your dues. I've said this all before, but it then turns into the once a month business meeting where you get to learn how your business is done. You get to learn how your business is done in the context of the greater cooperative. You also get to, it would just make sense that that's where you hammer out your schedules. Any business that needs to be handled democratically can be handled then and there, you know. if you want to fire your manager, that's the time when you do it. You know what I'm saying?
So to get organized, if you want, I can make sort of a spreadsheet thing where you can have like check marks where it's like you have the name of the person that you want to contact, your
Cool.
first contact, whether or not they were interested, and then you have like a check mark or have them sign their name or whatever, ideally, or at least like an online, some kind of phone number, whatever we decide is like this is your signature for, can't do it in person, and then check off that like these are the people we have in mind to contact, and then these are the people that we've contacted and are considering it, and these are the ones that are confirmed, and that way we
Gotcha.
can sort of organize like the humans, because we need to know who those humans are. I think that's the number one thing. Well, your number one thing next, actually, okay, this week I will make those spreadsheets, you contact those people.
Can do. I can contact some people.
It
Hell,
shouldn't take long to make one of those spreadsheets. You contact those people. By next week, I'll have the spreadsheets, and you can just type their name in, and then keep track of it on whatever, and then
Perfect.
add whatever, so that we have a list going to start.
Yeah.
So I think that's essential.
So speaking of
There's
stuff,
no point talking about any of this if we don't start getting those people in.
very true. And speaking of getting people in, one of the things I've been thinking about, hold on, just that. Boom. There we go. Isn't that cool? You can now read my thing there, can't you?
Humanizing the economy.
Yeah.
Yes. John. Oh, cooperatives in the age of capital. John Restakis.
Yes. So one of the things I'm going to be doing, in part because I think Curtis is tired of listening to me go over the same thoughts over and 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 over. Right. So what we're doing is going to be reading. What I'm going to be doing is reading Humanizing the Economy to people in on the YouTubes, and maybe editing, like putting in like the links, so when he makes sources or cites things there, I can throw up links and put them all in the doodly doo and all that other good stuff. But then doing
Are
that,
you reading it word for word?
yep, doing a reading.
You contacted the author,
I should do that.
because you might get flagged as a copyright infringement, because if people have access to the book online for free, blah 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 blah.
Absolutely.
So definitely do that before you start. But if you get his okay and everything, and just be like, I'm starting a co-op, blah blah blah, and I want to spread this out to people, then he might, or like, and then ask him like, is it okay if I make this public to anybody, or can I make videos of the information or
That
the
I'm
video,
just doing
whatever,
for my
but
groups,
to just,
because
yeah,
this is
just
for
for the
education.
members.
Because
Yeah.
one of the things I'd really like to do is like use these the discussion of the book basically as a talking point, for to start having tell me if you think this is a good idea or not, or where on the spectrum it lies, perhaps. But the idea of having the public reading. Originally, I was going to do Understanding Marxism, but I lost that book. No idea where it went. Kind of torn inside about it, but alas, here we are. So, Humanizing the Economy, a book about cooperatives, it seems like a good alternative. And so I've been practicing reading the first chapter out loud, and it's really fun. Yeah, you'll love some of this stuff. There is.
It's a good idea, as long as it doesn't distract you from putting names and collecting names. Because otherwise, again, you're just conceptualizing and not actually acting on what you want to do and what you need to do.
But it's a tool that you can point people to.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
For information, and if you want to understand the core values of the cooperative and why we're trying to do this instead of, the current model, then here's some more information. So definitely, but talk to the author first.
Sure, that's a good idea.
Just cover your ass. But yeah, see what the author has to say. Other than that, yeah, I can make a spreadsheet for you.
I'm sure this guy's contact information is in here somewhere.
I don't know what else we need to discuss tonight.